agendize this particular issue for the
I'll bring it
end of
back
the
in
year.
December.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item J. We have a request from Arnold Brooks, who is the executive officer, to speak to us regarding organizational analysis. Would you like to start this out, Arnie? And we'll just continue the discussion from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, again, my name is Arnold Brooks. Yeah, my name is Arnold Brooks. I'm a captain here, Carpinteria, Summerland Fire District, and also a citizen of the community. I'm representing the firefighters tonight for item J, the operational analysis. So I just want to give you a brief statement on the item. The Carpinteria Summerland Fire District has put on the agenda tonight to look at an operational analysis or a performance audit, however you want to look at it. The firefighters would like this operational review to include all aspects of its fire service operations here in the district. We believe the review should focus on how to best meet Carpinteria Summerland Fire District's fire protection needs while providing any possible operational efficiencies, cost savings, or possible reconfiguration of services in these difficult economic times. The current struggle is to keep the fire service levels strong after our recent reducing of staffing and losing the squad, Rescue Squad 61, and an ever-tightening revenues will always be challenging to the district and the constituents. There is pride and ongoing effort to deliver the best customer service with the current availability of resources here. A professional and neutral party performance audit that will lay the foundation to a better and more efficient level of service to the community is much desired. I appreciate being here tonight and helping with this issue. Again, I'm representing the firefighters. I'm the main liaison. We have some colleagues helping me research some things. They're not here tonight, but we want to look forward to a good solution and analysis. That's pretty much it. I can answer any questions, and obviously it's going to be a long process. There's a lot to accomplish in any operational analysis. There's a number of things to look at. Obviously it's level of service, and is there better ways of making things better here in the district. Covering everything from A to Z. I can go into more things in depth, but it's a lot to talk about.
If you'd like to stay up there at the podium, we may have some questions
Okay.
for you as we go across the board here. Let me start on my right here. Mr. Price, do you have any comments on this request? Did you get an opportunity to look at those contracts?
Yes, I read the material.
Yeah.
I guess my question, Arnie, is, well, just first backing up a minute. Ordinarily, in agencies, before they go and commission an expensive audit of some kind or bring in a management consultant, there are identified problems that are major topics of discussion that generate the investment and bringing in the outside group. So one of the proposals that you sent us, and thank you for doing that, was from the city of Vacaville. And as you may know, the city of Vacaville is bankrupt. I think it's the only city in the state of California that's bankrupt right now. And so it doesn't take too much to figure out that they might be having some problems. And the proposal was for a $50,000 study to be commissioned. And frankly, I don't have any idea what the justification is for us to go forward with a performance audit in a small department like this without a lot of thought being given to what the outstanding issues are that would warrant our spending the kind of money that we would need to spend and the amount of time investment, because I don't see it. And one of the things I guess I would ask you straight out, because you mentioned reconfiguration of service, and if any part of the motivation of this has to do with looking at consolidation with the county, my own impression was that that was put away as an option years ago, because obviously this district struggled with that issue for a long time. It was struggling when Bob and I first got elected, however long ago that was. And we went through a lot of tumultuousness, and my impression was, at least 2 or 3 years ago, about the time that Chief Mingy came on, that everybody was pretty solid in terms of where we were, pride in the organization, level of service moving forward. Not meaning that there weren't problems, and aren't problems now, that need to be looked at and examined. So I'm really in the dark as to why you and others think we need to have this in terms of the particular issues that you see that justify it.
Well, like any fire district or any government agency, there's always a need to improve. This is not about consolidation. This is about a better level of service, looking at operational needs. The focus needs to be here is in a performance audit. This is not a consolidation audit. There's a number of things we can look at. The study I sent you was one of many. They've conducted many analysis from San Diego to Northern California. You got one that you dealt with. Maybe that analysis is going to help out that department, save money, and be more efficient. I don't know. But I'm not a professional in it. I'm here to work with you, come to a solution of what our needs are. I have some, personally, I have some I can talk to the firefighters about, the chief, but what does the board want? What do we need? What do we want? And what can we improve in? That's the analysis, and that's to be determined. The focus needs to be is what is going well here and what needs improvement. So unless you can provide that for me, I have an idea, but I think that's the whole solution is to determine what it is and just look into better service. And it's not consolidation. It's right here in this community. We have 2 stations. We have reduced staffing. We only have so much money. What's the most cost efficiency of doing business here and providing a better level of service, really, is what we should be striving for. And that's all that is. And obviously it's going to take communication and dialogue with the board, and probably bring in somebody to talk about it, because I'm not a professional. I don't think anyone here is in terms of analysis.
In my business dealings that I've had throughout my career, this isn't the only thing I've ever done. I've worked for some large businesses. When they do consulting like this, they do hire consultants because usually the management has no idea what's going on the floor. For instance, in a factory, they have no idea what the gripes are and everything else. They're living in this cloud 9. Same thing with municipalities. Most of these municipalities that would hire someone would be for city council or board of supervisors who have no idea who and what their fire department does. They're in another cloud 9, they're separated, and it's a way for them to get some information put together where they have an understanding from, let's say, an outside group that, okay, this is what's going on with our department. This is where we should build a new station. This is why we should do this and that. And the reason, because these people are totally disconnected. The city here, or our special district, is very fortunate to have 5 very active board members, and this is all we do. We're not involved with sewer. We're not involved with police, so we're not involved with all the other things that city councils and supervisors have to deal with. We probably have a greater understanding than anybody that would come in. Now, I'm talking about each board member here, of what this department is, because it's so small, and what everyone does and what our problems are, that I can't see paying $50,000 or whatever a fee would be to have someone come in and tell us stuff we already know.
Okay, well, the issue is I don't know if it is $50,000. That was Vacaville. I'm sure anything's negotiable. If we shouldn't be even looking at a price tag right now. We should look at if it's feasible, do we need it, and what the cost is. Those were just samples of what you saw there. So I don't know what the price would be, but I at least want to see what they can provide, because, like I say, they're the professionals. They do this professionally, and they do it every day. No disrespect to the board, but that's their business.
But again, I feel we know more about what goes on in our small district here than any outsiders could do. Plus, it would take so many hours of our staff for them to dig through our files. It's not just $40,000 or $50,000. It's the staff time it would take for them to get the information they think they would need.
I would encourage to maybe invite somebody here, maybe from one of these companies, and ask these questions, because for some reason, they conduct these audits for big agencies from San Diego County, San Diego City, LA County, up north, 5 cities fire. So they obviously produce a good product.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a professional in this, and so I'm just here speaking on behalf of the
I know.
firefighters.
With no disrespect, the big people may need it. We're a very small district. We have 35 employees or whatever. It's not like we're any major city where we need a broader view, where the Board of Supervisors or City Council needs to know because they're not affiliated with us every day. Again, you're fortunate to have hands-on board here. This is all we do. We're not involved with anything else except doing the best for you and doing the best for our community. And we have to make decisions sometimes aren't pleasant. They're not pleasant to us. I know perhaps they're not pleasant to you, but we have a responsibility to watch the dollars, and this is an expense that right now I don't think we can afford, frankly. It's also a responsibility for us to spend. You'd be surprised how many hours we spend outside this board meeting that we have once a month. You know, I think we're pretty well informed of what our problems are in this district, and we've done our best to try and solve them. In the last 9 years, we have made vast improvements in this department. This department has come full circle.
Okay. And what is that analysis?
But I'm wondering, Bob, rather than having a back and forth at this time, if you want to get the comments from the other board members, and
Sure.
then we should hear from our chief, I think. Although I'm sure you'd be happy to
Ask.
remain on the sidelines.
Well, again, this was not disrespect, Arnie, and we're not trying to shut you down or anything else like that, but I'm just giving you my opinion. How about you guys?
Well, you've been doing a strategic plan. What have you been doing the last how many months? You know, going over each aspect of our fire district every month, reviewing what facilities and fleet. You've done so much already, right? And it seems to me that that would have been a good time if you wanted an organizational analysis for everybody to participate in that. It's almost as if we've been doing that all along. And here, yes, there have been huge budget cuts, there have been pay cuts, layoffs. You want to spend money on something that you don't even know really what it is, if it might help, it might not. I say there's an expert in this room that could do it himself if we asked him to, but I think he already has. So I'm really surprised that this would come up now, and especially during this economy. I don't think it's warranted at all. I would like to hear more from, I guess, maybe the union, why they think this is so necessary and why now. Is this what you and Lisa, I thought it was, we were all going to sit down and together and maybe talk about issues in the district. I did not think that you wanted us to hire someone at a really high cost, a stranger, you know, coming in here and doing something like that. I'm really surprised. I'm kind of shocked. This was not what I expected.
First of all, you never hire a stranger to do anything unless you do a little research on them.
Well, I didn't realize what you were asking, I guess, until I got that email and I saw the dollars and this outside firm. And what, there's only one outside firm that does this and we just go with
there's
them?
not. It's all about research. That was one sample, and that was stated in the email I sent.
Well,
Okay,
I think we have experts
there's other
here.
companies out there, but that's just one sample of operational analysis.
Yeah, and boy, those other districts, you know, that Emeryville, they had a chief that wasn't even around 70% of the time. They had nobody to go out on calls. They had huge problems. We don't have that.
Again, unless
I'm
we look
flabbergasted.
into it, how do we know? It's based.
I think.
Let me ask you
I think
this.
we feel comfortable that
Okay,
we
okay.
might.
If
You want
if
to get back to the board, because I don't know how much
Yeah.
back and forth we need.
Yeah,
to
I'm
have.
sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about you. But why don't you let Arnie finish and then have the board discuss it?
Oh, okay.
Okay, a simple analogy maybe. If your child comes home and says everything's going great in school, then let me see your report card, and that kind of spells things out. I think we need a report card here to see how things are going. And it's not hard to do. It's going to cost a little bit of money, but it's going to pave the road to success.
I think we did that in 2009 with that, didn't we, do a Browning and
We've been doing that
Browning
all
and
along.
Associates study?
Okay, first of all,
And-
we can get into that. The Carla Browning study, you can tell me how much money we spent on that. I think it's around $10,000, but to this day, I don't know what we got out of that personally, and I haven't seen the report on it. And so
And maybe this new
So-
one at
so maybe
4
this-
times the cost
I mean,
would be the same.
let's talk about it. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if the Carla Browning discussion came up, but let's look at it. We're talking about these things here, and you know, it's about problem solving and discussion and maybe going that direction.
Okay.
That's what I'm pushing there. It was on the agenda,
There's a
and
fourth
I'm
board member that would
I'm
like to
speaking
speak.
for the firefighters.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
There's a fourth board member that would like to speak and be recognized, Mr.
I'm
President.
recognizing you right now.
Terrific. I think we've gotten off on the wrong foot on this, and I shoulder a majority of the blame. I committed to getting a document to Chief Mingy, and I failed to do so. I put it together in an email, thought I sent it to him, did not. So in that report that I put together, what I envision is certainly not jumping in both feet into a $50,000 commitment to do some sort of analysis. In my opinion, this, like any other organization, can always use improvement. And I think the way to improvement is through communication. And the way you communicate is you define the roles and you bring people together from disparate and particularly, in our case, a multitude of perspectives, and you exchange ideas in a positive and guarded environment where the repercussions are minimal. To that end, what I would like to see in this analysis is a committee of 3 comprised of a board member, a firefighter, and a management or administrative representative. The 3 of them would get together. In my opinion, the first place to start is the Browning report. Chief was able to forward that on to us, and I think that is a place there were findings, there were strengths, there were weaknesses, there were recommendations going forward. So we use that as a straw man to begin the process. We exchange ideas. We have a working relationship that is built in that sort of environment, and from that, in the idea exchange, we continue to Director Price's point, uncover these areas of strengths and weakness and uncover what the issues are, and then, and only then, when there is a clear and concise development of those ideas, and we've been able to identify them, talk through them, and understand that this is a barrier going forward, then we understand if it does make sense to spend an additional amount of money. I believe that would be the great place to start. We have spent, I believe it's $3,500 for Browning and Associates, and we did not take full advantage of the report and the information that came from that, and I envision this committee taking that step, being an iterative process, 3 months at a time. We incrementally set out, we've got 5 objectives, we align it with the strategic plan, and are we making those incremental improvements to make sure that at the end of a 5-year, a 10-year, a 7-year window in the strategic plan, whatever it's identified as, that we are making those iterative steps towards improvement. And that's what I envision. I'm not here to sign up for a $50,000 check. Certainly that would be fiscally irresponsible. That's not something that I'm prepared to do. We haven't had any discussions toward that end. So I think the sticker shock of the Vacaville was probably getting off on the wrong foot, and I apologize for not taking care of documenting what I envision. So there it is verbally for consideration. I think it's, in my opinion, I've had a lot of time to ponder over this. This was an idea that came up in the course of our negotiation in the June or July timeframe, and I've had a lot of time to consider this, and I simply can't imagine a better way to go forward. in that 3 or 4 months that I've had.
Well, I would support getting together and talking
With the
first.
Browning Associates, obviously, with the report. This was sort of like a stunner, just thrown in our laps real quick. I mean, this is, within a few days, the first we've heard of this, really, except for your email.
Can we hear from the chief?
Are you talking about the email I sent you?
Yeah. Chief, you want to jump in on this a little bit? No?
Yeah, I will, since we got talking about it. First of all, the consultant that was recommended in the email is Citygate. They're a reputable company. They've been around. They do this stuff for a lot of departments. But if you look, they at what they've done, they do large departments, San Diego County, that have issues regarding strategic planning, where station placement is, and so on. I don't think it's by any coincidence that Citygate is currently doing Santa Barbara County Fire Department right now, doing a study with them, and this has come through association, either through the union or the management with Santa Barbara County. That Citygate's in their shop, and the logical step would come to our shop. Maybe I can understand why he says a third party, because I'm a little bit prejudiced. I can sit here and tell you just off the top of my head that we have the only 4-person staffed paramedic engine in the county. We are the second highest in compliance with the national standards as far as response times. The only one that exceeds us in the entire county is Montecito. We get audited every month by the Public Health Department. They provide our response times, and that's part of our contract, our EMS contract, and we exceed everyone else except for Montecito. In fact, as I go through this list, the only one that exceeds us in all these things is Montecito, and it's basically because Montecito is a small department with $11 million budget. We did a salary survey as a precursor to our last negotiations. Compensation package wide, Carpinteria Summerland, for all employees, was the second highest compensated, benefited department in the entire, from Paso Robles to Oxnard. So we're well taken care of. Our budget remains in the black. It has for the last 4 years. In fact, it's so much in the black that we're able to put reserves away. We pulled ourselves last year out of a deficit issue that we had for decades. So you're managing your budget well. Every year, even though we haven't grown, our revenues have somewhat slightly exceeded our expenses. So our budget management is good. There's another issue here, and the main issue is the economy. And Arnie knows this, and you knows this. I've worked for a lot of different departments, and I have contacts in a lot of different departments, and everyone is going through the same issues we have. You have a division between management and labor. People are disgruntled, they're not happy, and it's all based on the economy. The unfortunate thing about this department is that division has been there for decades, even when the economy was good. And I'm not sure why that is, but that's just the culture of this department. I think, my staff and myself have tried to make advances in that. The Carla Browning survey was part of that. It ended in a conflict resolution. There was an employee in the department that people weren't happy with, hadn't been happy with for years. We put that employee up and kind of skewered him, and since I didn't fire him, no one's happy. And that's the truth. There's nothing I could do about that except bring it all out to the surface. The true issue here is not problems that have to be addressed, because we don't have that many problems. The issue here is the economy has got everyone on their heels. And second of all, there are a number, and I'll say this here because it needs to be said, and it's going to be said in a meeting or publicly, but there are a number of people in this department that this department doesn't meet their needs. We're a small department. We don't have a lot of overtime. We don't get a lot of wildland assignments. We don't get a lot of action. There are departments that have a bigger game, and I understand that. I, for one person, moved to, this is the 6th fire department I worked for, because when I was in a department that didn't meet my needs, I moved on. I never asked the department to change. Carp Summerland is Carp Summerland. It's an excellent little gem of a fire department, and we provide a level of service that's second to none except for Montecito in this county. And to try to change the department to something it's not is a rub, it's a distraction, and we're never going to progress as long as people in this organization feel we should be something else, and that's the truth. it's not going to be county fire department. It's not the county. It's Carpinteria, Summerland Fire Protection District. We serve our community well. We don't get a lot of overtime. We don't run a lot of calls. And we don't get a lot of wildland assignments. That's the truth. And if that doesn't satisfy people, then I would be the example saying other departments are hiring. But if you're going to work here, let's do a good job. Let's try to get along. I agree with Ben's statement. It's always good to sit and talk about issues and be broad-based. But if you want to hire a consultant, we have a fire station that we're going to build, and we need a consultant to tell us how we're going to finance that. That's what I would spend the money on, because I have a station that's dilapidated, has not been addressed since 1925, and we have plans in the works, and we don't know how we're going to finance that. We're going to need a consultant to tell us how to do that. These other issues, if you do anything else, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, in my opinion. So there you go. You asked, and I told you.
Director
Well,
Price?
You know, these are tough comments coming from everyone. And when I say tough, I mean really frank. And in a way, it's refreshing because we're hearing, and I'm including from Arnie as well as board members and the chief, things that we all basically understand anyway, that's getting aired out. And there's something that is, what's the word I'm trying to think of? That's
To
good.
be said.
No, I know.
Catharsis.
Cathartic.
Cathartic, yes.
Good. Wow.
Scrabble player.
So, you know, I think that's a start. So I want to go back to Ben's suggestion, and I'm just wondering, since we're hearing about your memo, although we had a pretty good idea of what you had in mind from before, if the starting point should be to have there be a preliminary discussion, and I would think you would be the logical person to serve with you and the chief and with Arnie or whoever the representative is going to be, and to have a sit down and talk about whether from, you know, everybody's vantage point, looking at whatever the issues are coming from them, if they think that meeting the issues head on is going to get the group anywhere, and if so, then coming back and sharing it with the rest of us at the next board meeting. That kind of thing. So really just starting out and having a session and then deciding from that point forward where, if anywhere, you want to go with it, if it seems to make sense.
Can I add some? I'd like to add some of that. As I said, I agree with Ben's statement and his movement forward here. I would like for anyone else but me to be the person who facilitates this. I'll attend, or maybe I'll have Joyce attend. You know, maybe someone who, you know, I'm the boss. Okay, so obviously people are somewhat, what's the word?
Guarded.
Reserved around me. I understand that. That's what I get paid for. Okay, but if just like strategic planning, I think the process is good, but because I'm leading it, there are those that won't come. They just won't. And everything's seen through my glasses. So if the director would like to be the lead on this, I'll be willing to participate in any manner you would like me to participate in.
Well, and just following up on that, I'm having a hard time envisioning how it would work without you being present, because ordinarily the board does not inject itself into operational issues, and it sounds from Arnie like we're largely talking about operational issues, and you inevitably are going to be involved. And so I'm wondering whether or not, at least for an initial sit down, so we don't have to take any more board time, if you think that it would be fair for you and the association rep and Ben to sit and talk about how you might formulate something, or if it makes sense from your vantage point. Because otherwise, all it is basically is a continuation of a negotiation process with our manager, who we depend on, absent. And I don't see the merit in that.
And I think that goes back to the question that what Ben brought up is, we don't know what the issues are. I think all four of you brought that up. So, obviously, operational issues, do we staff
Would you
differently? Do we
like
respond
to-
in the right manner? That's one thing, you know.
Could we ask the union, do you want management?
What an operation
for-
analysis does, it looks at everything A to Z and where you can improve. That's it. It's not consolidation. That's it.
No,
And
we were
and
asking
so
about
for
if
us to
you'd
say
like-
no without talking to a professional consultant who deals with this, I don't understand that.
Well, I think we've said
I know
no,
it's a
Arnie.
financial issue, obviously.
Arnie, I don't think you're listening. The discussion has moved away from hiring a consultant to do an audit of this department. And it's not up for a vote. I'm sure we'd be happy to, but you've heard pretty much of a straw vote, and if it needs to be brought back for a formal vote, then I think you've heard loud and clear that's not where we're headed at this time. But Director Miller has left the door open as a mere possibility, depending on how discussions go and identifying issues that could theoretically justify and trigger the need for such a thing. All we're talking about now is
A meet.
basically having, at the beginning, a one-time meet to talk about whatever issues you have, because we still haven't heard what they are. You're talking about them in a broad sense, and the chief has been very candid in what his reactions are to some of the things that are happening. And so a starting point could be that there's a meeting with a board rep and you and the chief, or not. Otherwise, quite frankly, from my standpoint, the board is here to set policy. I couldn't have any more confidence in the world than I do in Chief Mingy in the way he's led and is leading this organization, and I'm frustrated that he's experiencing what I consider to be the frustration that he is, and I'm frustrated that, there's also frustration from the association, and I'm thinking, how can we end that? But it's not going to start out with some performance audit, is what I'm hearing from my fellow board members. And I agree with Director Miller that where it needs to start out, like in every human situation, is with basic communication. And I think that it might continue again at future board meetings, but the time really needs to be dedicated in another setting.
I agree. I think if I could interject, certainly an initial meeting, including Chief Mingy, I think is something that is that does make sense. I don't think in the long term that it is something that makes sense. What I'd like to suggest is either somebody from the prevention side or the new BC that comes in. And I know on the one hand it seems odd to bring in somebody that has absolutely no idea. The other hand is maybe that's a fresh set of eyes with tons of experience from outside of this arena to give a fresh look at what's going on and how things have been worked with and issues have been worked through in other organizations similar or slightly different than what we do. So my opinion, an initial discussion between Arnie has identified himself as the representative. You guys have indicated that I would be a good role. I certainly accept that. So Arnie, myself, and the chief to get things going. And I'd like to include a third from the admin group to round that out. I agree with Chief. It's not his place to be in that meeting in the long pole. My opinion.
We do have 3 new battalion chiefs coming on between now and the end of the year. It might work where the chief does one of the first meetings. We could alternate between these new eyes, as you say, with men who have had experience elsewhere to sit down and try and solve some of these problems. Who knows? Again, I don't think anyone knows this area in this department any more than we do. And as far as something being broken, I hate to see that. I hate to see any animosity between groups or anything else like that. I thought most of those things were solved, but apparently not. And I'd like to see us be a family in a way. You know, this is what we have always been. And it's sad that we're not acting like that, or, you know, things aren't coming about like that.
Do you think the union would be agreeable to that? I know you're asking for something else. You're asking for an operation analysis, but would you start the process with this initial meeting?
Yeah, sure. And this isn't us versus them. This is how do we improve our level of service. That's it. We want a report card, and we want to improve our grades. That's it. Please meet with Ben and go for and see where this is going to go. But we want to do this professionally, and that's all we ask for.
Okay, well,
It sounds from the chief like
Thank
we
you.
already have a, if not a A, then at least an A- report card. So that was,
Well, of course, and that's maybe the issue. Obviously, I'm proud of this department, and I think we do a good job, but, and maybe that's the rosy shaded goggles I look through, but I think that the information to prove that is fairly
Easy to
to
find. That's
easy
why
to
I keep thinking
obtain, and
it's right
doesn't
there.
require a cut and paste
Right.
data mining, but that's my opinion.
okay.
well. Well, Chief, I'm going to put you back on the hot seat here with administrative report. Maybe you can go off in a different direction right now.